welcome to another episode of Will It Work? Today we're going to look at the 3DO interactive multiplayer system. As you can see, it says it's Gold Star. Here's the weird thing about this. I think I bought this off of somebody, but I never actually got the Gold Star version. This box, they sent this to me in, but the actuality was that it was the Panasonic version, which is actually the most common that you would find in the United States when this was on sale. And if you don't know too much about the 3DO, basically Trip Hawkins, who was president or CEO or something of Electronic Arts, decided to leave Electronic Arts and form his own console company. And that was the 3DO company. And they created their first console, which is this FZ1. And the idea is that they wouldn't actually produce the console themselves. They would allow other companies to produce it, kind of like how the VCR was, rather than having one company produce, VHS VCRs. Many companies produced VCRs and made money off of it, and made different features and improvements. And so the idea is that they would do the same thing with this game console. The problem that they had was that in order to make money on the console, you have to sell it for a profit, right? And it's quite an expensive piece of hardware when you first release a console. Many of the consoles that we have purchased as consumers have been subsidized, meaning that the parent company has sold them for a loss. And the reason that they sell them for a loss is because they make it up in game licensing. Every time you sell a game, you get some money for the game sale. And so by using some math and figuring out how much money is spent on games and accessories and all sorts of things, they can figure out how much profit they're going to make on average for every console that they sell. Well, when you're not actually the company that has the licenses, which is 3DO, then all you're doing is making the hardware, which was Panasonic, Gold Star, Sanyo, a couple others, and they didn't make any money. So they would sell the console for a lot of money versus other consoles. So when this initially came out, it was probably the most advanced console at that time. And this was around still the Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Super Nintendo era. Things like the Jaguar, the PlayStation, the Saturn, all of that wasn't out yet. And so this console ran for, I believe, $600 though, which was very expensive back in the day. Today, you can get a PlayStation 5 or whatever, or Xbox for, better than calling it a series something, an Xbox 4 for $500. But here we had something that was released in the 90s, early 90s, and it was $600. So that would probably be somewhere in the vicinity of $700 or $800 or more today, which for a game system is a big ask, especially from one that you hadn't seen before. Now, it has a single controller port, and the controller isn't bad at all, right? Headphone jack, volume, and they put the cord in the front rather than on the bottom. That had flipper controllers, and you could link controllers together. So the next controller could plug into this controller, etc., etc. So you'd only have one wire going across the living room floor to the console. The other ones would be on people's laps as you went around the room. Some people didn't like that. Some people preferred having all the cords go straight into the console. I get it. We never had a problem with it. We used to play this console all the time, and we never really had an issue with it. As far as like gameplay is concerned, these controls were pretty solid. I mean, people can look at these things in hindsight or whatever, but I played a lot of games on this, as did Anderson. And we played tons of things, and we never had any issues with these controllers at all. So overall, I think this controller was pretty good. CD-ROM, And I have a few games here, but I don't have the best games. I mean, because I think what happened was I sold my original Panasonic version and all the games to somebody, or I gave it to somebody. Knowing me, I gave it to my brother, and he disposed of it in some way, because that's what usually happened to my old consoles. Uh, but you never know. And so I don't have the greatest games left, although these days I'm sure you can probably download them online. I don't know if this has been cracked. I imagine it has. I have a sort of a generic cracked looking version of Shockwave, although I think that was probably a pack-in. ESPN Baseball, PGA Tour 96, Shockwave 2 Beyond the Gate, and a Mercenary. So we'll take a look at all of these just to give you an idea of the time. And then I do want to stress, when we, assuming this works, because that's the whole point of this thing. This might even not even turn on. But I want to stress that for the time period, if you all remember, if you were living in that day and age, when CD systems first started coming out, Sega CD, and then later the first games that kind of came out on like Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation, etc. Those were very full motion video rich, poor gameplay for the most part, right? I don't think anybody reflects fondly on those first years of CD gaming because they were very cheesy, full motion video. Of course, there were some good games that were released, but on the whole, there was a lot of garbage that was shoveled on to it. The 3DO did have support from Electronic Arts, so it did have a good Electronic Arts library. It had some really great sports games for the time, and overall, while it wasn't a success, because as the PlayStation came out, again, the PlayStation just had more raw power than everything else that was out at the time. The Panasonic, 3DO, etc., it just couldn't compete. And what ended up happening was Trip Hawkins, he was working on 3DO 2, or I should say the FZ1-2, which I think they named it M2 for Mark II, and it was also had a name Bulldog, and it was going to run on 2 microprocessors, Power CP processors, and they basically had it. The 3DO company, I believe, had the spec completed, and they ended up selling it, but they were kind of out of money, so they ended up selling all of it exclusively to Panasonic, Matsushita. And Matsushita was going to release it, and I guess they probably just looked at the market as it was, and the capabilities of the system and the support they had, and decided, you know what, we're just going to not release it. And so they used that technology in some other things, but there were like some kiosks, and there's a few systems out there that like were used for like auto dealers and things that were based on the same technology. And some people will sell those as like the M2, but they're not. They're just based on the hardware spec of the time. And there are development boards out there for it. And I think that if you have like the development boards and some of the prototype titles, you could possibly play maybe some of the prototypes that were designed for it. But it was never officially released. It never came out. And it's a shame, because it would have been nice to have had a fourth game company other than Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft still in the game producing stuff. Matsushita is a big company, Panasonic. They certainly could have produced a very capable game system and been competitive. And we probably would have had a lot more fun with more game systems than less. But as it stood, it didn't really work out. So I'm going to plug it in. Let's see if a flame shoots out of it or anything. And then let's see if we can get some display. And we'll get it going. Speaking of which, how does this hook up to the TV? Okay, good. It's red, green, blue. Let me connect those really quick. I'm going to just actually use these. I have some additional component cables, but or composite cables, but I'm not going to go fetch them right at this exact time. What I will do, I think, is just pause the video here so you guys aren't waiting for me. Okay, now I'm going to plug it in. Plug that guy. And let's see if it ejects. It does power up. Good. And I've got a display. All right, I'm going to switch over to the video side, and let's see if the motor works and everything, and we can play some games. We are looking at the 3DO. It's asking for a disk, so let's try the eject. Eject does work. So the first thing we'll check out is Shockwave. I honestly don't remember any of these games. These weren't the ones we really played, but we'll take a couple minutes and look at each one here and see how they play. See if there's any FMV we can all enjoy together. Good old full motion video. Okay, game is inserted. We have a black screen. Looks like it's loading. Got a 3DO logo. It's grinding away over here. I remember like when the PlayStation first came out and Ridge Racer was one of the launch titles. And Ridge Racer had a novel little bit of where you could play Galaxian while it was loading. And that just seemed revolutionary at the time. Like, wow, you can do stuff while the game is loading. And for the most part, most game companies didn't follow through with that kind of thing, which is really kind of a bummer because loading times, especially in those early days, it was pretty terrible. I mean, we just sort of experienced it here. It wasn't too bad, but kind of a long wait to get a game going. That's why there was like that debate about cartridges versus CDs. CDs were pretty slow, and cartridges were supposed to give you a more immediate gaming experience. The only problem with that was when you put a cartridge in from like Nintendo or something into like the N64 at that time, it would always start up with all of these like low, Nintendo screen, well, N64, Nintendo, who developed it, etc. And it was like, this is taking as long as the load times, like these stupid intro screens. Like, just get me into the game. It should be like the old Atari 2600 days. You turn it on, boom, you're in the game. Everybody wanted their credit instead. And so, that kind of ruined that whole argument for me. It's just like, I'm waiting either way, cartridge or CD. This is one of the FMV segments here.
Major Stewart, you getting this? Affirmative. Commander Crane, unidentified flying objects approaching Earth. Plot their approach vector and sound red alert.
Ooh.
My God.
Although, the CD on Genesis was pretty grainy. This was giving you, although a low resolution, it was still giving you a pretty clean picture for the time. And that was kind of novel, because you usually, there were game systems like the CD32, but even before that, like CD-TV or CDI from Philips, CD-TV from Commodore, they had, these were sort of precursor CD systems, and we'll look at some of them later. And they could do, VHS quality video, and they did it using a full motion video cart. So you would spend extra money to get an FMV cart expansion plugged into the back of the unit, and then you could watch full motion video. And that was always trying to be a selling point. That went over well in Japan and maybe other Asian countries, in that they had a lot of video CD market rather than VHS market.
Lieutenant, this is not a drill.
In some ways, I think, video CD was probably superior to VHS just because you didn't have all those tracking problems and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, it didn't really catch on here in the United States. Some people used it, but it just never really was a big thing.
Your main objectives are the Valley of the Kings, Giza,
I have no idea what's
Cairo.
going on.
Omaha will send us a refueling drone just before we reach Giza.
But I mean, if you think about this, like you came from like cartridge, this is all talking, it's got video, gonna throw you into some 3D graphics here, and you're like, this is pretty revolutionary. And so, if you saw this back in the day, at the, like a Walden Soft or something on display, you'd be like, wow, this is great, look at this 3D, and I'm fighting giant mech machines. Yeah, it's just coming to say hi, guys. Ouch. Ooh. Kind of hard not to get shot in this game. So, I mean,
This isn't a game, Lieutenant.
I remember, with a lot of the full motion video actors, they used to take like washed up actors to can I get this or something? Is that something I can pick out? What's this? Can I go in here? It's probably not a good idea. Oh no. Gotta stay within this box. Don't leave the box. They would get these washed up type actors, and because you would never get any real celebrities or anything, you would just get these B actors and stuff in there. But sometimes they would get people that you remember from old TV shows and stuff, and they'd be like, "Hey, I remember that person." All right, so this is I'm not gonna keep playing. This is Shockwave. So let's pop the disc and see what happens. Just lets you keep playing. Doesn't even reset the game. It's just you just keep going. It's all right. You don't want to put the disc in. We don't need it anymore. All right, let's take a look at ESPN Baseball. I'm sure this is going to be really exciting. Turn it off. Turn it on. And we used to play Star Control 2 on here is really great. And it was sort of like a custom version for this that they eventually used for Urquan Masters. It wasn't like that they ported the PC code or whatever. And then there was Return Fire, which was this 2-player game where you tried to take each other out with different Army vehicles. We played a lot of Wing Commander 3, which was really fun on here. And of course, we played a lot of Road Rash, which was a phenomenon, basically, at my house. We were always playing Road Rash, and we could never win. To this day, we haven't won. I gave Don a copy of it for his PlayStation, and I don't know, but I don't think he's ever won. We could never beat Pacific Highway. It's the 5th level Pacific Highway, I think, is the last one you have to do, and we just can't do it. We just can't do it. And I've seen the actual video of people winning online and stuff. It's just as cheesy as everything else, but we just never did it. And we played that game a lot. Let's see, let's hit play. Instruction: ask the coach. What's the call? Baseball hitting. What is this? Teaching me how to play the game? Woo! So this is just some learning experience about baseball?
Most
wow.
players choose bats that are too heavy and too long for them.
This is awful.
For best results, you should pick a
My
bat that
God,
you
who
can
bought
control,
this?
and not one that controls you. A lightweight bat allows you to better meet your hitting expectations.
I guess people were thinking this would be something people would want. Their personal coach.
Depends on your size and strength. But remember, the longer the bat,
I guess if you're really into playing baseball, this might be educational for you or something. Probably not. All right, let's lose that. I should put a sticker on this that just says never insert this game. It is terrible. Yeah, there were, with a lot of these early systems, though, there were a lot of, okay, well, let's try golf. There were a lot of educational titles. And that was kind of a holdover from the CDI, CD-TV era. You know, there was this thought process going into a lot of this stuff where the game companies and the ownership of the, you know, the master companies, the big companies, they wanted to control the living room. They felt like if they could get all of their entertainment into, you know, the console itself, they could control all of the commercialization and the licensing and everything around what's going on in the living room, right? And so they would, you know, infuse as much stuff as they can, movies, music, education, etc., thinking the CD, because of the vast storage capacity of the CD that they thought at the time, they would be able to, you know, become a central place for everything that you want to do on your TV. And it just never really worked out that way, and it still hasn't really worked out that way. PGA Tour 96. So it gives you a little bit of a date there. Why do you want to get credits at this point? Oh, I guess it's loading. Play around. Now again, you know, whatever. Those are like clubs, I guess. Whatever. It's fine. Let's do it. Oh my God. Seriously? How do we get out of this? Alright. Sorry. Freaking out there for a second. Like I was going to have to put in names for like 10 players. So graphically, you know, if this has like really great scenery and stuff, this would be the kind of thing you would show like your dad or something if you were a kid. You're like, Dad, look, they've got golf. And it looks like real golf, Dad. Like you're like really there. Well, that does look like real golf. How do I use this thing? This doesn't look like a golf club. No, Dad, you got to press B and then A and then no, this is too hard. You play it. Oh, that was awful. Okay. I'm trying to remember how to do this. You like tap it once to start, and you click it, and then you click it. And you're trying to get it in, you know, into the green or whatever. Okay. You know, so full color, good sound. Right up the middle. Woo! That's how we roll. How many players is this? Okay. YE1. You know, it's just golf, man. It's never been my thing. And into the sand trap. Boo! Bullshit. That's what you get for wearing a pink shirt. Found. Uh-oh. Put too much power on it. And you're going to go right into the sand trap too, buddy. Oh, we got a little bit of hill there. Into the rough. Let's just see what the putting green looks like, and then we'll move on. So anyway, golf. We all know. We've all been there. We've all played our golf games. So you could tell, though, that the 3DO system was capable. You know, it could play games of its era just fine. You know, it was probably better than a lot of other things that had come out at the time. Why are there 2 Shockwave games? Shockwave 2, Briefing Beyond the Gate, Shockwave 2, Operations Guide. Really? Really? Why are there 2 discs? Come on. And why would neither of them say they're the game? Shockwave 2, Beyond the Gate, Disc 1, Disc 2. All right. Let's find out, everybody. Let's find out what the difference is between Disc 1 and Disc 2. We'll learn about this together. We'll put Stinky Golf away. Nobody likes you, golf game. So the first game we played was Shockwave. So now we're playing Shockwave 2. It's in Dolby Surround. I don't even know if we're playing it, though, or if it's just going to be like a movie. I have no idea what's going on here. It looks like a game. That's the old Electronic Arts logo. It's the newer Electronic Arts logo of the time. They had like a lion or something. I don't know. The Art Deco one they had. I've seen a lot of Electronic Arts logos in my time, believe me.
The alien invasion was endless. On board the UNSF Omaha, Commander Elena Stewart led Earth's last
The game didn't look
desperate
anything like that
retaliation.
when I was playing.
During the final assault,
Maybe more like that.
the Omaha was lost. Her commander and crew never seen again.
20 years later. You kind of wonder sometimes, like with these old games, like if somebody would just be like, some company would be like, take something that was really kind of like nobody cared about it and be like, we're going to relaunch Shockwave. And people are going to be like, I don't remember playing Shockwave. And we're relaunching it though, and it's going to be great. I mean, it is. It's like amazing. And then people go back and play the original one and they're like, this isn't good at all. This is horrible. Thank God they rebooted it. It's like, why reinvent the wheel? Why create new stories? Just steal someone else's. I'm kidding.
I'll sure be glad to get this thing off my hands. With all the pirate
See
activity in
what
this
the date
sector,
is on this one.
I can't guarantee its safety.
It's like you get 2 games for 1 in this or something. It's really weird.
This thing is
By
important,
Advanced
isn't it?
Technology Group 2. Oh, zapped them. Game over, dude. Oh, and there's some crazy lizard creature. Oh my God. Oh, 90s in your fun FMV videos. Half the fun, I think, when you were playing some of these games was just to get to the next FMV segment, just to see what it was. They were all garbage. I mean, don't get me wrong. They weren't the least bit interesting. But you wanted to see them. Because it's like a movie. I can't keep my headphones on right because it's surgery on my ear. I can't put it over the one ear because it hurts. It'll be alright. It's like they put a hole in my ear and then it's like they didn't stitch it closed. And I'm kind of like, well, shouldn't you stitch it closed? I'm like, well, the skin will grow back better this way. And it's like,
That's the mercury, all right.
okay, but I have a big hole in my ear.
Damn, look who beat us again.
Speak of the devil, guys. Too late, Flynn. As usual. I hear there's a triple bounty on this one. Get me Sergeant Steele. I already have a team down on the surface. Stick around. You might learn something.
I'm trying to think of, like, was there ever a time when any of these full motion video segments were actually good? They were always trying to make these movies, and all of them, in my memory, were cheesy. The Wing Commander ones weren't too bad. They had some interactive elements. You know, Mark Hamill, and I think in Wing Commander 4, you had Malcolm McDowell. And that had quite the budget. That was like one of the most expensive games ever made until I think Super Mario came out. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember too many of these where I was like, boy, this is a really compelling video. It's probably one of the reasons why like gamers started to prefer that we used in-game graphics rather than full motion video graphics, because you wanted the graphics that you were seeing to mimic, what you were playing, and that makes total sense. But there was a cheese factor to a lot of this that I kind of miss. It's kind of entertaining. Wow. Imagine showing your friends this back in the day. They just got done playing like
Captain Flynn,
Jungle
I'm
Hunt
unable to
or
calculate
something,
our
and then you
current
put this in
position.
front of them, they'd be like,
This
oh my
solar
god,
system
this is
is
amazing.
unfamiliar to me. The data I've
Like, well, it's
collected
not
so
really,
far is stored in your
but
onboard systems. Please study
it's
it.
certainly something. Oh my god, how do I go? Yeah, I'm gonna pick the green planet. None of this matters.
I will continue to trace the location of the alien vessel. Preliminary scans show 7 outpost installations operating as perimeter defenses. You will need to disable all 7 to safely explore this planet.
Sure, why not? I don't care about any of that. Can we just go? Thank you. Let's press start, man. None of that matters. They're gonna throw whatever they want at me anyway. Alright, so the ship looks cool. Now we're flying over a planet. This does look like they've improved the graphics somewhat. I'm thrusting.
Captain Flynn, ICE is attempting to extrapolate the flight path of the alien. I'll continue monitoring and report any unusual activity along your path. Nothing to report yet. Careful. Out.
These towers are emitting shortwave radio transmissions. They are most likely communications equipment.
Whoa. I think I'm sort of sliding around like I'm a tank or I'm on the ground or something here.
Good job. There are now 6 outposts left.
Captain, I'm picking up activity from 6 outposts scattered around the vicinity of the base. Destroy them all. Out.
Oh, everybody's all serious. Not even nice. You do what I say. You're putting your life on the line. You better just do your job. Shut your mouth or something. What? Listen, man, I'm the one out here getting my ass shot off. Can I pick that up? What is that? I mean, really, this is just like Battle Zone or something. It's like souped up Battle Zone with some... But, if you go back and you compare this, like, we looked at the Atari Jaguar earlier in this series. And if you look at, like, the Jaguar came out later, it was all 64-bit, and it was supposed to be more, powerful than all these other systems at the time. But if you look at, like, what we played, this game is full of texture maps. And the Jaguar just didn't have them, And it really hurt the Jaguar because it just kind of gave it that look like it was it's like a Genesis or a Super NES game or something. I mean, I think the 32X looked better than most of the Jaguar games. It's not to say they didn't play better. Jaguar had some fun games to play. Because really it does come down to the games and not always the hardware. People play classic systems all the time because the games are fun. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying this game is good, because so far it doesn't seem to be. But I could see somebody spending some time playing this and having a good
Flynn,
time.
find and destroy the
And
remaining
but
outposts.
you know, the thing is that it seems more technologically advanced than a lot of the other things that were going on at the time, and even things that came later. Now, of course, the PlayStation came out; it could do this game easy. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing here that the PlayStation couldn't do, or the Saturn for that matter. Just the Saturn was powerful because they had two of those processors in it, two main central processors. But they basically slapped one in there to compete against the PlayStation's, what do they call that thing? It's not the Emotion Engine. That was like in PlayStation 2. I don't think it was Motion Engine. It was called something. But it was basically a math coprocessor that allowed it to do 3D really well. And, and so, like, the Saturn could do it, but it was really hard to program that extra processor to do something in the Saturn that was worthwhile. And if you had the right programmers, if you look back at, like, Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Saturn, it was really well done. And you go, wow, this shows us what the Saturn can do, and it looks like it can do what the PlayStation can do, but it just, there's something to be said about ease of development. Developers want to, sell a game, and they want to make it so they can, not work on it endlessly.
You have disabled all but 2 outposts.
Flynn, I've got a major chlorotic trace leaving the scene. Could be our friends hightailing it. Out.
Stay with the plan, Flynn. They may have left the artifact behind. Let's take out this
Alright,
space
that's enough of
and
this
get
one.
some answers.
Sorry.
Maybe even
Just kind of
find that
zoning
code.
out, trying to see if something else would happen.
Flynn,
So I've only got one
we're
more
deploying
game
a weapons
for this little
recharge unit
series here,
now.
since we spend time on this. I'm a little bit nostalgic, I think, about the 3DO, because I just didn't think it was that bad of a game system. It's just that the era that it was in was just very cheesy, and eventually it lost out to the PlayStation, which for sure the PlayStation was the better console. But it still played some good games, and there were a lot of games out for the 3DO, and there were some really good ones. And so, if you ever get an opportunity to emulate it, or if you pick one up cheap, or a friend that has one, and you like classic gaming, it's certainly going to take you into some interesting experiences that you won't get from a lot of the other systems, just because it had so many weirdly unique game titles. So the last thing we're going to look at is a Mercenary. For some reason, I have 2 copies of this. I think one might have been a pack-in, and then one was just like a game set that came with. I may have other 3DO games somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't think so, though, but I might. Yeah. A Mercenary. Like, I want to find, like, those original games and invite Anderson over and just, like, kick back and play Road Rash or something. But we can do that on his PlayStation. It's cool. Electronic Arts. Like, this is their original logo. It's like they were going through a transition or something.
Wake up. Wake up.
I don't really remember this too well. I don't think this was a great game. 5 Miles Out. Everybody remembers that, right? No. Nobody. Satellite intercept.
For your own sake, children's sake, and the sake of every generation to come, listen to me and behold your future. What you now know as virtual reality will in your future become a virtual Armageddon. Your children's children will become enslaved.
I don't know, parents might come home and see kids playing this and be like, what are you playing?
I know what must be
A Mercenary.
but I am
Who is
powerless
she?
to act on my own.
What is she in this
Have
game?
a warrior from your time. Someone
She doesn't get
outside
naked,
this
does she?
world
Oh,
will
Dad, she doesn't get naked.
Here is the
Oh,
information.
all right.
Analyze this data, and you will see that everything I say
This game's for adults. I don't think you should be. Dad, it's not for adults. It's just a game. All right.
Analyze the
You
data.
know your son's playing this game over
Everything is in the data.
Parents,
know, but the full motion video just added a layer of, like, you know, it made the console seem more powerful than it was, you know, that kind of thing. Added this sort of gloss to it. New jump. And I guess the 3DO must have some sort of internal memory to save your place in the game. I don't recall there being memory cards for it. There may be. I just don't recall there being any. You know, somebody had to build this set, hire these people, directors and everything, put those special effects in.
Dr. Collier! What happened?
So crazy.
We're losing sync. We've got to pull him out.
Ugh, it's nuts. You know, if people didn't go back and play games like this, though, this sort of stuff will be lost to time. No one would never know that this video is there in this game. They would just be, like, unaware. Oh.
Are you ready,
Some
number
George
5?
Lucas wannabe guy. I remember, like, I would show friends, like, different, not games like this, but other, like, full motion video segments, and they would be over, you know, like, before a game got started. And they would get so irritated. They would be like, when do we play the game, man?
This is all we got from 4.
This is really long. And you'd be like, yeah, I know. Sorry, I'll fast forward it or whatever. It's so crazy, like somebody put this all together, you know. And it's not like these guys work at Hollywood, you know what I mean? It's not like they go to like and have all this stuff in like a back warehouse and roll it out from like another movie and just change it around or something. You know what I mean? Like, this is a video game company. They hired some people, but you know, somebody had to like orchestrate all of this FMV because they thought that was really going to be the big selling point of the thing. And it's like, really, you should have put the effort into making the actual game. All right, let's skip the rest of this. Let's hit start. Otherwise, this video is going to go on forever. It's like loading right now. This is like some loading screen. Oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this was like some sort of, it's almost like an RPG in a way. You kind of moved around town and you found these other people to talk to, basically. I think that's what this one is. Whoa. But it's so, like, it's so weird and so, like, yeah, it's so, this guy's E-Res or something. I don't know. And then I think, like, if you find, like, somebody, you'll talk to them, and then they'll be like, I gotta go. Maybe it's not this game, though. There's a lot of games kind of like this, though. And, you know, it's really the beginning of kind of the open world. Yeah, it's like you got D, O, and A, and then you, like, if you take these guys out, think it refuels that or something. Like if you stay on the pad, it like raises it up. So you're trying to like hold the pad, to like regenerate the power or whatever that you gained from killing different guys. But I'm not quite sure what it's used for. But yeah, anyway, this is really terrible. And but you know, it gives you an idea that somebody was thinking about open world. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of like a city that you're running around in, and it's just the beginnings of it though. Like it never really amounted to anything. What is that? No idea. All right. So I know that most of these games have been pretty terrible, and I know it's a bad representation of, you know, what the system can do, but it was kind of fun looking back through these things and seeing what they're capable of, etc. And it did have a music player in it too, I think, so you could, you know, play some tunes, and I think there was like a visual display. We could maybe see that for just a moment, but I don't think it was anything on the order of the Atari Jaguar. Put in my broken turnbuckle CD while I put this game away really quickly. Never to be played again. A mercenary. Someone will play it someday. My grandnephews or whatever. Be like, great Uncle Kevin, he left behind some garbage. Oh yeah, I remember this now. These little things will sort of dance on the bottom. So like you just sort of one of these play. Press and hold C for. Oh, I see. Problem is, folks, is that I actually have to plug the old controller back in because I was just about to put everything away. But I just wanted to show this really quick, what it looks like. So, and, you know, and that was basically it. I mean, it wasn't like the visual effects that you would find in the Jaguar or anything. It's just something that it came with that was kind of novel. I don't quite remember if you could change these around. Yeah, a little bit. Some melty vision. Turnbuckle, Don Anderson's old band. Probably going to start skipping in a minute. Old school. But anyway, that's Panasonic 3DO FZ1. Thanks for watching. And be watching for the next one. Probably won't be as long as this one, but it was a good walkthrough, not really. Bye.